Welcome
I have no idea what's going on, guys. This could be a major fiasco.
to Lighting for Profits, your number one source for all things landscape lighting. Powered by Emery Allen. From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
And I'm just like, okay, is this where I get beat up in front of my friends? Like, what's going to happen?
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
That's what I like.
Now, here is your host, Ryan Lee.
What is up? What is up? Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in Northern Utah. That's right. It's the number one landscape lighting show in Northern Utah, powered by Emery Allen. Thank you so much for your guys' support. Thanks for being here. If you are here live with us, let us know in the comments. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is one of my favorite parts of the week, is getting to be able to hang out with the lighting community. So thank you so much for your support. This could definitely not be a thing without you guys. And yeah, I have to beg, guys, I'm always looking for more reviews. So if you are on iTunes, if you're on Spotify, go give me a 5-star review. There's really no like automation I can set out because there's not any review systems for that. So if one of you wants to make a lot of money, build a review system for podcasts, and you can do that. So what's up, JC? Thanks for being here, man. Looking forward to hanging out with you soon, just in about a week. What's up, Mike Long? Also looking forward to hanging out with you. Thanks for being here, guys. Today's going to be a great show. And listen, if you guys are looking to start or grow your lighting business, this is the place to be. And today's episode is no different. We're going to have the one, the only Mr. Chris Mitchell. And Chris has been in the lighting industry a long time. He's with his family business, Night Lighters. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're here to basically educate and motivate to help you dominate. So super excited to be here. So my main goal is to beat your 500,000 viewers with Matt on My Call Thursday. Yeah, that's right. I was promoting earlier. I was on a live on a Zoom with Matt Hayden with Clippa, and apparently we had 500,000 viewers. So this thing becomes more and more global every minute. Also, that's unconfirmed. It was, I think it was only maybe 3 or 4 viewers, but listen, it doesn't matter. It's one life at a time that we're trying to change. So that's the way we roll. And JC, I'm confident that you'll get more viewers than me because you're a total stud. So guys, happy Valentine's Day, by the way. If you didn't get your wife or girlfriend or husband or boyfriend or whatever you have, the flowers and the chocolates, go do that, because that's what we're supposed to do. I got mine last night because I knew I had a busy day today. So, but next week, guys, Landscape Lighting Live. Yes, that's right. Next week, Landscape Lighting Live in Tampa, Florida. It's sold out, which I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for everyone's support. But if you want to come to the next one, just go to landscapelightinglive.com and get on the waiting list. Just go to the top link there, click to get on the waiting list. And the next one's going to be in Utah. I have not formally announced the dates, but it's going to be in May sometime. So I'm trying to figure out some details on some other things, and really looking forward to that. But next week, we're going to be down in Tampa for Landscape Lighting Live, and then we're going to have be part of the AOLP. We've got a booth there, so make sure to come and say hi. And I think today or tomorrow is the last day to get your tickets for AOLP. So if you're on the fence or whatever, just go get your tickets now. And then we got a busy few weeks coming up. We've got okay, what do I got? I've got the week after AOLP, we've got Holly Dynamics. I'm going to be in Houston for a couple of days. So if you guys haven't gotten your tickets to that, come hang out in Houston with me. That's going to be a blast. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to be in Vegas with the Clippa crew. And then the week after that, we're going to be in Indiana for Illy. So a lot of stuff coming up. I've told my wife and kids goodbye. I said, it was nice knowing you. I'll see you in a couple months. We've got a lot going on. And so I'm so grateful for my family and their understanding and their support. So, all right, guys, do always want to thank Emery Allen. They've been a sponsor of Lighting for Profits for some time now. So I'm super grateful for their support. And just want to remind you guys that a fixture is only as good as the source of light inside it. So this light source is what your customers and future customers will ultimately see at night, and will result in thousands of dollars in return business for you, along with glowing referrals. See what I did there? Emery Allen believes every lighting professional should have access to a light source engineered from the ground up, dedicated to high performance when you need it most. So at the end of the day, listen, it's what's on the inside that counts. Take advantage of Emery Allen's world-class customer service. Get 10% off your first order. I'm surprised how many people don't know about Emery Allen still. All you have to do is go email right now, tomg@emeryallen.com, and he's going to hook you up with discounted contractor pricing. Just mention that you heard about him here on Lighting for Profits, and he'll hook you up with that discounted contractor pricing. Sure, you can go to their website, but that's not their best price. So email tomg@emeryallen.com, and he will hook you up. Thank you so much to Emery Allen and the team over there. Appreciate you guys. Guys, as a reminder, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Chris Mitchell with Nightlighters, and we're going to be talking about design and business and probably a whole bunch of other stuff. When Chris and I start talking, a 10-minute conversation is quickly an hour. So I actually don't even know what we're going to talk about because we can get on some tangents, and we're just going to have a lot of fun. So what's up, Nathan? Can't wait to see you next week. Cannot wait. All right. So by the way, before we have Chris come on, I want to talk about something that's important to me. I told you part of the show is to educate and motivate to help you dominate. And, motivation is great. I want to motivate you guys, but it's all about getting motivated and then having discipline. But I was listening on the plane the other day to a book, Ed Mylett. He has a book called Max Out Your Life or something like that. And it's an awesome book. And I had already listened to it before, but I just was kind of feeling in this weird mood. And I was like, kind of looking through, like there were certain books that I was like, I didn't really want to like listen to because I wasn't in the mood to like pay attention, and like certain books I want to take notes and like really map it out. And I was like, well, this one would be a good one, get motivated and stuff. So it's a really cool, just short, like get pumped up book. And I know some of you may think this sounds weird, but I feel like I've been called. Okay. I feel like I've been called to serve the world in a way that I didn't even know was possible. And I feel like I've been called to help you reach your full potential. And one of the things that Ed says in his book is good is the enemy of great. Good is the enemy of great. And that hit me hard. He said, if you don't hate your circumstances, you'll learn to tolerate them. Think about that for a minute. If you don't hate your circumstances, you'll learn to tolerate them. And most of us, unfortunately, have accepted our circumstances, and we've made excuses, and we just kind of get by, because we can justify it however we want. It's like, well, it's not all about work, and I want to spend time with my family, and I want to spend time doing what I want. But listen, getting by in life is not your purpose. What's up, Chris? Thanks for being here, man. Getting by in life is not your purpose. If you think that, then you're losing the battle of the resistance. You're losing the battle to the adversary, guys. And I'm telling you, the greatest trick, this is not my quote. I can't remember where I've seen this for years, but the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world that he did not exist. And there is a resistance, whatever you want to call it. There is a resistance coming at us every single day. There is this force of darkness. There is these forces trying to talk us out of our dreams, trying to hold us back from the things that we know that we can do, right? And we all have a greater purpose than we even know about on this earth, right? And so what does becoming a great lighting designer, a salesperson, a business owner, a leader, what does that have to do with our purpose, right? Well, I'll tell you, like we all have influence. Okay, we influence our friends, our peers, our family, our coworkers, our employees, our suppliers. Like we all have influence. It could be negative, it could be positive, but we all have an influence on the circle around us. And so the fact that you do lighting is actually just a tool to help you grow and be better. Okay, so this is your chance. This is your chance to influence the world in a positive way. A couple of months ago, I talked about seasonal affective disorder. Okay, SAD. It's a real thing. It's a real disease, if you want to call it that. When it gets dark in the winter, more people get depressed, right? And that's really what it is. And so you guys are literally bringing light to the world. How awesome is that? Like we literally have the ability to change the world by bringing light to the world and helping people feel better about their lives using light. Like we're in an awesome position. We're in an awesome industry. And so this is more than just knowing like where to place lights or what fixtures to use or pricing accordingly or closing more deals on the spot. It's a lot bigger than that. And this is about you reaching your full potential. And as I read this book, I just thought, man, There's so many of us that are held back because the world tells us that, it's okay. It's okay to just be yourself and all these other things. But I'm here to tell you that, like, you don't have to accept mediocrity. You don't have to be okay with your circumstances. You don't have to make excuses because of the way you were raised or the position you're in. The world is yours for the taking, and you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do, right? And we all have different goals. We all have different versions of success, definitions of success. But I want to help you guys reach your full potential to whatever that is. And I promise you, your full potential is greater than you even understand at this time. My full potential is greater than I understand, right? And so you reach your full potential one step, one day at a time. Okay. This isn't like, well, how am I going to like achieve my dreams? I want to accomplish this. It doesn't really matter how you're going to do it. That doesn't matter. An analogy, if you're trying to go from LA to New York and you have to drive a car, if you look at the globe and the map, you're like, how am I going to do that? You don't have to know every single turn. And what if it was even harder? What if it was all at night? What if it was pitch black the whole time during your drive? You don't have to have a light bright enough that shows you the whole way. You just have to see the 100 yards ahead of you that your headlights light up. And that's what I want you to focus on. What is the next step? What is the next thing that you can do to get you closer to your full potential? So today, become a little bit better than yesterday. Spend 2 minutes today being grateful for everything that you have. And imagine if you do that every day, see how that would affect your life, right? Another thought I had is when you feel resistance, and if you're a business owner, you've felt resistance, okay? Negative thoughts, negative emotions, when you feel discouraged, unmotivated, depressed, that is when you know you're onto something. That I used to feel worse about myself when I felt those things. I'm like, man, I can't do this, or I'm on the wrong track or whatever. But now I smile when I feel those feelings. I'm like, yes, you know why? This means I'm onto something. This means I am close. Like I am so close. And I truly believe that. Okay. The harder it is, the bigger the reward. Stop waiting for things to happen. You have tremendous opportunities right in front of you. Next week at Landscape Lighting Live and at AOLP, there's going to be a ton of people that have a ton of experience. I'm talking people that just have sold millions of dollars of product and services, tremendous business people, designers, all sorts of people down there. We've got opportunities right in front of us. We all have dreams. Deep down, we all have a better version of ourselves that we want to be. So start living your life with intention. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you what to do. Like, I love social media. I love Facebook, but sometimes I'm like, dude, you don't need to ask that question. You know what you need to do, right? I mean, a lot of times we do that because we want the community to feel better. Like, okay, we can do this, but you already know what you need to do. Don't wait for someone else to tell you what you need to do. You've been called, okay? You've been called to lead your circle of influence. Take control and create your legacy. Leave the world you operate in a better place. Get fed up with your circumstance and do something about it. You can be the change, all right? Write down what you want and go get it. That's it. No more excuses. Just write it down, what you want. You don't have to write down all the steps on how you're going to get there because, again, you might only be able to see 100 yards ahead of you at night with those headlights, and that's all that matters, one step at a time. When life gets tough, just laugh, okay? Because that just means you're merely moments away from greatness, and that's what you should do. Just laugh at it. And say this, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I've got these negative feelings because I'm about to break through, baby. And that's what you should be focusing on. So no matter what, just make sure today you take one step forward to reaching your full potential. All right, guys, that's enough about me. I want to get to our guest. I mean, I do love talking. I do love hearing my voice. Shout out Eric Turkelson. He's the only guy I know that loves talking more than me. But I do want to get the show on the road. Actually, before we have Chris come on, I told you guys we're going to be at Holiday Dynamics. We're going to be at AOLP, Clippa, Illy. I'd love to see you guys there. And most of those places, yeah, all of them except AOLP. Like today's the last day or tomorrow, but all of those they still have availability. So if you want to come, make sure you guys go get your tickets now because they are getting close to filling up. So just want to encourage you guys to do that if you're on the fence. Okay. let's play the music. You guys ready? If you guys have any questions for Chris, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll see if we can get to them. But I think it's time to get this show on the road. Welcome. How's it going, Chris?
Going great. Hey, you inspired me. So I'm looking at one little screen, right? And off here to my left, I have another bigger screen. And when you were mentioning about color, warmth, right? How it can affect your mood. I changed that screen that was a white screen and it's mostly orange. So it makes my face look a little warmer, which as you
Nice.
get older, hides wrinkles. That's why I'm looking better and better under candlelight. So
I see. Yeah, you've got that nice lighting going on. So I
yes,
didn't know that's why. You were just trying to make yourself look better.
trying to hide the age and the wrinkles.
Love it, man. Thanks for being here, man. I'm really glad to have you on. We're going to talk about some design. We're going to talk about some business. So appreciate you being on here.
Thank you for
We got
having me.
Mark Carlson in the house joining. So that is good timing. Thanks for being here, Mark. What's up, Greg? Thanks for being here. All right. Well, let's dig into it. I want to ask you first, kind of maybe just introduce yourself for those that don't know you. I know you've got a lot of super fans out there, but for the people that don't know you, how did you get into the lighting industry and when was that?
So I'm from St. Louis originally, and in '93 I moved to Owensboro, Kentucky, following my dad here. My parents were divorced when I was growing up, and I worked in St. Louis for his remodeling company, but never really got to spend much time with him. So after finishing up school, I came out here, and he and I had the bright idea of I quit uh, a white collar job in St. Louis, finance, and he and I were going to open up a landscape company, which my mom said I was crazy because I had terrible hay fever. But we moved here, and of course, he and I didn't know anything about landscaping. We had did some landscaping around his house in St. Louis as a father-son project, and that was all the experience we had. So we had to go to work for a company that we were going to purchase. And after we worked for him for a while, he realized he didn't want to sell it, but he had done 2 low voltage lighting jobs using nightscaping, and that was in '97. And Dad asked him if he'd mind if we or if he investigated that. So he flew out to California and met with Bill Lachlan at Nightscaping and got started in the spring of '98. And then I came on full time with him in the summer of '98. And here we are,
That's awesome.
a short
It's-
25 years later.
I know it's crazy to think about lighting in the 90s because I graduated high school in 98. That's that year. So I had no idea what landscape lighting was back then. That's for sure.
Ryan, there was no one doing lighting in Owensboro. Like I said, the guy had done a couple of jobs. There were some, every neighborhood, typically every town, no matter how small your town, some exceptions, has some large homes, has that street with the rich people. And they were typically back then lit with the metal halide, big box lights, just blasting the house. And that's what was lighting back then. And I'll not forget my father telling me, he said, Chris, we'll either find a niche or this isn't going to work. And for about 10 years, we didn't have an answer to that question.
Good for you guys for not giving up, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the perseverance, and I think a lot of people don't understand that the companies that succeed and make it past that 2 years, 5 years, and especially 10 years. I mean, you got a lot of grit, you got a lot of discipline, and you're willing to look yourself in the face and be like, "Crap, we can't pay ourselves," or a lot of hardship, and it's not just easy from day one. So good for you guys.
Yep.
So I want to ask you a little bit about your design brain because I feel like you have a little different perspective, but I feel like most lighting companies, it's like either like, okay, it's a business focus or it's a design focus, right?
Right.
And I think you added like a third element. I think you had a third one or something. Systems, right? So you're saying the kind of a triangle, like there's the business focus, there's the design focus, and then there's systems focus. And like you said, like there's really not one that's right or wrong or better than the other or anything like that. Which one do you identify more with?
We of course, you need to have your feet planted in all three, but I live in the design centric realm above all. The challenge for me, Ryan, was coming from a kind of a sales background. My first sales job, I was 6 years old selling candy bars to my little league football team door to door. So, and
Nice.
then in high school and then into college, I made a good amount of money in St. Louis. Everyone has asphalt driveways. And so me and my buddy, instead of mowing grass, we decided we're going to seal driveways because everybody hated that, the chemical burning, just nastiness. But it was great money. And then we started doing parking lots. And I think in college, it was just phenomenal. And, but you're always got your sales hat on. And then my first job had to do with sales. So the tough thing for me was to try to straddle the right brain and the left brain, right? I needed
Mhm.
to have my feet planted in both, and it's a struggle. I, I, I don't have it mastered. It's something I work on every day, but I wanted to be that designer. When I look at some of my mentors, like, Janet Lennox Moyer, I don't think of her as a salesman. She's a designer, and she's um, documentation, but her designer eye. And I wanted to understand that. And I wanted to communicate that to my clients because something I could see early on when Dad and I got our business going is, of course, there were people that jumped on, the landscapers jumped on pretty quick and started offering lighting, and they would always be less expensive than us. And so we had to be different, rather than trying to compete from a sales perspective. I decided to try to be competitive from a designer perspective. Well, I didn't really know how to do that, so I just started, as some of the associations you brought up have been a great deal of help to me. AOLP, ILI, Ellie. Trying to think, there's others. Oh, through the AOLP, Ryan, something that I started doing on my own is every year I would go to at least one fellow AOLP member's home and
Nice.
spend a few days and just ride in their vehicle and just experience what they experience. And sometimes you never know what you're going to pick up. For example, I went down to Texas and spent time with a AOLP member, and that was in maybe 2008 or 9, and found a in-use cover that he used. That was just the Mac Daddy of in-use covers that we use to this day. So it can be little things, it can be big things, but
That's
um,
cool.
yeah, but always exercising that designer side of my brain. And then when you meet with a client, you always have to understand that they may not see you as that designer. So how do I get there as quickly as possible when it's a stranger? I mean, somebody that's not a referral. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about that a little bit because, like you said, like you're competing with these people on a sales standpoint. And you're like, well, I don't really know how to compete with them on that, so I'll compete on the design standpoint. You start going to some of these organizations. You go to AOLP, you go to ILI. Now you're part of Ellie. Um, like what did you learn? What did you learn from Jan and some of your other mentors that helped you establish yourself as an authority designer in front of that client who you just met a few minutes ago?
Well, it was interesting. Some of the things you go and you get taught at different sales uh, events, functions, classes, I saw Jan doing without even knowing she was doing it. For example, ask questions and listen. Something I always respect is, here in my region of the country, we have some nice size homes, but most of our homes are your 3,000, 4,000 square foot home, and they're wanting lighting on their home. They live on half an acre or smaller. So how can that person every day is not treated, I think, with respect. They get like a hustle. Hey, I can do this, stick flags in the ground, be bang boom, let me email you a bid, and they're on to the next one. I want to spend time with that client. And what I learned, like from Illy, uh, was just slowing down, asking questions. And if you listen to those answers, you'll discover a lot about the client. One of the things that resonated with me, I can't remember where I learned it, is just always remembering that I don't live there. I don't need the client there to do the best design of my career. This is what I tell them, but I don't live here. So I need to listen to what you're saying. A great case in point is it's happened to me in the past. Somebody calls you on the phone, says, I'd like some lighting for the front of my home. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll be there to meet you 2 days. Great. I pull up to the home, and by the time I get to the front door, I've already done the lighting design. They
Right.
say hi. I say, hey, come on, let's go inside, talk. Hey, I got some great ideas. You got this great stonework on your house. Da, da, da. And then after they listen to me jabber on for what feels like 5 minutes, they go, well, I wanted you here because my grandma fell off our front steps. Oh, so it's not about
Yeah, but the
aesthetic.
stone would look really good grazed.
Yeah, right. Your main concern in that case was safety. That was their concern, right? They have concerns. That doesn't mean they don't want the front of the home lit. But if I'd have just asked questions like, why am I here? Or back in, I think I learned from nightscaping, why light was something you always ask, which is the same thing. Why am I here? And just let them talk. And then what I sensed happening from a sales perspective, remember I told you, I'm always thinking I got feet in two buckets at the same time. By just shutting up and letting them talk, I'm differentiating myself from possibly who they might meet with if they meet with somebody else. And I'm not just talking about lighting, but landscaper, deck builder, roofer.
Yep.
By listening to them and then building the lighting design around those responses, I find that that serves me well, where then I can start elevating my price, and which slows me down even more because now I'm not out there having to hustle. I'm not saying I can pick my jobs. We get out there and work hard every day, but it does provide pace and rhythm just by doing that one thing at the beginning.
That's great advice. It reminds me of the advice I got from my therapist when we were getting marriage counseling. So just listen. It's like,
Yeah.
isn't that amazing? Like if you ask a client a question and you listened, how like that should be like basic stuff, but it's so true. Like most people aren't doing that because we get so excited and passionate about what we do, and we know how it's going to do this and that. I want to ask you about this because when I sit in my truck and before I walk up there, I'm like, I know how awesome this is going to look. I pretty much know where everything's going to go that I can see. But you're right. Like I have no idea. Well, like you said, I don't live there. I don't really know what they want. What is your experience like when you start asking those questions? And what if they don't trigger on a certain area that you're like, man, this would look so good. Like this would complete the area. Are you trying to get them to say it and make it their idea? Or is that not your priority is solely just to give them what they want?
Yeah. So sometimes you'll sit down and you go, well, why am I here? Well, I told you I'd like some lighting for the front of my home. Okay. And they kind of just leave you hanging, right? I will not. I'm also, as I'll be teaching in one of my classes, I'm big on control. Somebody has hand, right? And if you let them be in control, you're out of control. So I just go. I don't know if you know this, but you remember that show Columbo,
Yeah.
the Private Eye? So I just go Columbo on them. I just act dumb. I slow down and I say, well, I just like some lighting for the front of my home. Well, I'll ask them why. And maybe they don't know, but they typically know. It comes down to a friend has it, or they have a concern, or the sidewalk's dark. Eventually we get to an answer. So, and then tactically, I am staying in control of that conversation. And then we always build on it from there, Ryan, because I will do, at Nightlighters, we always have zones. Zone A is the reason I'm there. Sometimes it's not the reason that they think I'm there at first. I've had those projects where a client calls, they're interested in lighting the front of their home, and we end up starting with the rear of their home. And then there's other zones, right? B, C, D, and on they go. And that is also just a business process, a system we have in place to ensure further work because we're giving them some control at the right times. We present options. They can pick them like a grocery list. That gives them some control. And then once they're going to take a leap of faith with us, right? I think it was like a week before, I was not one that would do nighttime demos, but a couple of things happened. I read your class that you're giving down in Tampa, right? And you talk about it at the end of your class and how important it is. And it goes in there and one out the other. But then guess what? Several days ago, I found myself at one of my clients' homes. They had 7 zones. They picked 3. One they didn't pick. I said, "Hey, we've got these 2 fixtures. They're 2 powerful 2,000 lumen fixtures. We had spec'd for another project, so they were in our shop ready to go, right?" I said, "Why don't I just bring them out, and when we do the reveal, I'll set them up and let you see it." Well, we did a nighttime demo, and at the reveal, and the one of the wife, she ended up saying, "That's my most favorite scene of all this."
That's funny.
Yeah. So I was like, I drove home that night, and I'm like, "Wow, Ryan, it changed what we're going to talk about in Tampa, because I mean, that demo can be very important." So sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a little on you here.
No, you're good. I love it. And like, I don't want to get too much on the demo thing, but it doesn't have to be like, oh, I just do a free demo. Like you said, like it could be at the reveal and you're like, hey, I know we did this, but I just want to show you a couple lights over here real quick. And then all of a sudden, then it's like dominoes. And then now they already trust you. You showed up, you blew their mind, and now they forget or they remember that they're rich, right? And they're like, you know what? Let it go. We just want it all. We want zones
Or
3, 4, and 5.
or Ryan, they're not rich, but you've gone from, on the value list, you move right up it, right?
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was at where I was, right? And if somebody would say it was a newer home, and I can't tell you the number of times I heard the husband and wife say, "Well, we'd like to do this. That seems like a lot of money, but I kind of see your vision, but we're going to do this home entertainment system first. We're going to put the irrigation in first." What I've noticed through the years is we're ticking up on that list, you
Mm-hmm.
know, getting up there.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to tell you is that leap of faith. That's what got me to the doing the little demo. Is with us. I mean, short of us installing their job and letting them look at their home, they are taking a leap of faith when they write. Our system is that I collect a design fee. That's a leap of faith. I collect half down when they decide to move forward with the project. Another leap of faith. They're not rewarded for that leap of faith until the reveal. So the demo can assist anybody with that. I don't care if it's a 20-acre 500 fixture job. You could certainly, like you said, take 5 fixtures to an area.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've noticed that too. Like sometimes you get to a project, you gel with them, you go through that whole thing, and they're ready to just do the whole thing at once. But there are some people that you have to earn that kind of trust over time. So it's like, hey, you know what? Like, and if I sense that, I'm like, let me prove myself. Let me just
Yep.
do this front area. Let me just do zone 1, and then you guys can see for yourself that I really am as awesome as I say I am, and then that leads to those other zones. So, the thing that I find interesting that you said that you learned from Jan and some of these other classes is the asking question things, even though that's a design technique or skill or whatever, it's actually a sales skill as well. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of these things interrelate so much. And that's why it's so fascinating to me is I think they're, even though like you said, like I'm natural, like I'm more of a natural business person than I am a designer, like 100%. But the more I can learn the design stuff, it helps me grow my business. And like you're saying, like you're more of that designer, the more you can learn the business stuff. I think if we all take a step back, slow down, and understand that it really is about the client, and even though we're the experts, we're the designers, we know what's going to look good. If we can ask those questions, and what you're from a sales standpoint, what you're doing is kind of creating and exposing the pain, and then you're the solution to it. And it's the same thing with design. It's like, why are we here? Well, grandma fell, or there was a burglary down the street, or whatever that is. Now you have a real purpose. Now you're solving something instead of just selling something.
Exactly. And I've walked into certain appointments, and I've asked them the question, and they'll get into talking about something, and I don't bother to pay attention. I fail because I know what I'm going to do. I don't care what you think. I know it's going to look best.
Yeah.
And I just have to slow down and really listen. Not that I'm still not going to do what I'm going to do, but I will fight them for it. And I don't mean that literally, but I mean if they say they want something done a specific way because they have this beautiful Japanese maple in their front yard and they want it uplit, but the thing is so nasty looking and so full that any uplight's just going to create a bomb, I might say, well, okay, but we're going to have to do some thinning on this. And thanks to the ILI class that you're going to be a part of, you're going to learn how to do that, Ryan. And I've spent, see, I took ILI in 2011. I'm no arborist. But every year, Dave, he's taught it that I've been a part of it. And anytime I'm fortunate enough to be included as a mentor, I always try to hang with him some to learn, because that is a great little asset as a lighting designer. Not that you're going to be pruning big trees. I don't go, any higher than a step ladder. In our region, it's my favorites are Japanese maples, crepe myrtles. But if you can thin those and let light through, of course, it causes shadowing. As Dave says, the tree is happier because air can move through. It has fewer leaves to nourish. So that's a great little thing for somebody to really change the lighting design. And then from a sales perspective, I'm still getting the sale, but then also I'm separating myself even further, because not that I can do it, but that I bothered to think to tell them.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I've had like I've actually never, well, I've probably trimmed some stuff that I probably shouldn't have. But there are a lot of situations where I've gone in and said, man, like it just wasn't, like the landscaping wasn't right for lighting, and I needed a tree here, or I needed the bed to come out further because I didn't want to use a well light or whatever it was, or I needed to put a wash light here. And people are more than willing to do that. And I think that actually adds to your level of expertise. If you're like, hey, can you redo your landscaping so that I can make this look good? That I think that does elevate you.
And most of the time, well, I don't know the percentage, but a lot of the time, the people that you're meeting with, that, let's say again, they're one in front of their home lit, they've had something to do with that landscape. Maybe they planted it. Maybe they got the plant from grandma's house. You just never know. But I've gotten in a rut before when I walk into a house and all I'm doing is just thinking about the architecture and not the plant material. And again, I'm talking about in this region of the country, which, so if anybody's familiar, I mean, like I said, you got a small front yard, you got mainly there's some bushes along the house, maybe a tree or so in the front yard, but that's about it. So sometimes there's just not a lot. But I was just talking with a friend of mine before you and I got on this call today, up north, and he sent me a picture of a job, and he was trying to figure out how to light the architecture. And right in the center to the right of the door and bookending the home were probably 20-year-old Sistina plums that were glorious looking. Now they're sticks right now because it's winter, but I sent him a text and I said, he was all focused on the architecture. I'm like, why don't you bring that plant material in, because you're bookending the home naturally. The client had it. You've got a center focal point by the door of all same plant material. And I said, it's pruned. I said, you can thin it some more even, and you could throw light through that onto the architecture. And you just don't need all these fixtures, because another thing that happens in this region of the country, Ryan, is most people don't spend time out in their front yard after dark. So you spend all this money lighting the front of their home, and they see it for 5 seconds until they're in the garage, and then the show's over. And even when they go inside their home, just think about the windows that face the front. Garage windows, the library, the formal dining room with the plastic furniture, the one sole guest bedroom. So those aren't rooms they're in after dark. The rooms they're in after dark is your master, your kitchen, your great room, your family room. Guess where those windows face? The back, right? So every night you go there, you're pulling blinds or you're looking at a black mirror. So my focus goes on to that when I get inside their house, which I always get inside their house. I don't stand outside. If they come at me when they open the door, I just stand my ground and, okay, try to run me over because I need to come in.
Lower your shoulder.
Like you said, right? It's part sales, all right, because I'm in control of this and I need to go in, but it's literal. I need to get inside. I've got questions. And then I want to scope the environment from a sales tactic, right? You walk in a 10,000 square foot home and there's no furniture in the house. Interesting.
No
or
blind.
It's just, yeah, you know what I mean? I used to, well, anyway, but I'm looking through those windows and
How long are you there on this initial design?
I tell them on the phone 45 minutes. I give them a time, right? So they know there's a beginning and an end. And
But you're there longer than 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, well, I say 45 minutes we should be done unless you have questions and it goes longer. But it takes us about 20, 30 minutes, depending on the scope of the project. I know the size of the house typically before I call. Once we secure the lead, they usually leave their address. So I Google it and I can kind of tell what we're getting into. And then they typically say what they think they want done. And few get on there and say, I live on 10 acres and I want it lit up. I want it all lit up. They're more conservative and they're holding their cards, right? They're not just going to tell you everything. And most of them just don't know what to do. But
like, so on average, are you really only there like 45 minutes to an hour?
No, sometimes I'm there 3 hours.
Okay.
It
That's what I was
depends.
expecting.
Yeah, couple caveats, right? If we get in there and I don't care, 10,000 square foot home, and they want just lighting on the front of their home, I can do it with 6 lights. I'm out in 30 minutes. I'll give them their budget. I'll tell them the design fee, and if we move forward, then the sales experience is over. It's on to Trusted Advisor. If we come up with 8 zones, then in order for me to collect that design fee, I'm going to give them a budget based on the conversation we had, and I'm going to come back, and that could take longer because I got to go out there and just rough through multiple zones in order to give them a budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had appointments like that it was 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I mean, are we getting lunch or like,
Well, hey, how do you feel, Ryan? I don't even know 3 hours went by. Those are usually some great appointments for me.
well, I always got a check, so it felt good for me. But I don't know. By the way,
Yep.
Greg said that he was able to convince a client to do their outdoor lighting instead of buying a Ferrari. I kind of think that afterward they probably got a Ferrari too, Greg, but I don't know. Maybe not. They probably put it off for a week.
Is that Greg Matthews you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Greg Matthews.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I definitely agree with what you're saying. You got to ask questions. You've got to like make it their idea. But I do think it's our obligation as a designer to say, listen, I understand that safety was important or whatever, but if I can show you what this would look like what if we also, while we're here, lit up these trees and created this and that? And it's again, like I talked about at the beginning, like seasonal affective disorder. Like I truly believe that lighting will impact people's lives in a positive way. Even like the front of the yard in Texas, people would light up the front of the house because they wanted to be the badass house, right? And then when they drove up to their house, they wanted to feel good about themselves. And honestly, like that's how like the front of my house is decked out, and I just like driving home at night. Like I literally, there's 2 ways to come into my house. I'll at night. During the day, it's easier to come one way, but at night I come this other way because I approach my house like head on, and I just like I don't know. I'm addicted to light. I like looking at my house.
Well,
So I think that there's a balance there of saying like, okay, here's what you want, and I'm going to ask those questions, but then also like I kind of want to show you like what we can do because this is going to be badass. Are you okay with that, or how do you feel about that?
So great case in point. Happens to me a lot because we have a lot of deciduous trees, 60, 80 footers in a lot of homes where they haven't leveled, an area to build homes. We have those too,
Mhm.
and then we have neighborhoods that have been around forever. Obviously, they have trees. I can't remember when I started doing it, but for years I know I neglected it. When somebody said they would like a lighting design for the front of their home, they could have trees all around the house, and I'm talking sides and rear, and I didn't look at those as part of the front of the home. Some years ago, I don't know where or how, uh, but I realized that we've only lit a couple of roofs. Most of the time, the roof's dark, right? We've only lit a couple of roofs on. They were both commercial buildings, right? So, but you have these trees in that view in the daytime, towering over the home or going to the right and left. So, just what you said, Ryan. They thought they wanted the front of the home. 15 years ago, that might have been my focus, but today they want the front of the home lit and they have those trees. Then I will say, just like you said, do you mind? Maybe we put this in a different zone even, but we do some lighting on those trees for the front of the home. And I explained to them what I'm talking about is potentially just lighting the top third as viewed from the front. The bottom 2/3 could be completely in the dark, does nothing for your view out your windows, does nothing when you sit out on your patio unless you look way up there. Nothing. It's going to be dark. It'll be for the front. And that is where, and it really blossomed for me because not only did people agree, they accepted and then loved that. And a couple of the photos I sent you for Tampa are examples of that.
That's awesome. And like you said, it's just another, I guarantee the majority of people are not having conversations like this with their potential clients. So now all of a sudden it's like, wow, who's this guy? Who's this superstar? Who's this lighting designer superstar in my house asking me questions that I never even thought we were going to go down this road. And you're increasing value in your company. You're giving the client more than what they even knew was possible. You're making more money. Like everyone's happy. So that's awesome, man. Appreciate you sharing
Well,
that.
this isn't exactly a secret, but I'll let it out of the bag because I don't mind. Because the more people do it, the better lighting is in general. But if you get inside the house, something that will separate you is, besides asking your questions, is just talk about the view through those windows. You'll be sitting in the kitchen, so you'll see A lot of times there's some window over the kitchen sink or something, then then the breakfast area, then the family room, and you can't see the master, but odds are most homes it's in the back, looking out to the backyard. They have a window, if not the bathroom window. So I've asked about that, and I've done it. I've never had a client tell me, "Oh, Chris, we went with you because of that." I can't recall that, but I always feel them responding to that, and and I know they're responding to it because they're like, "What? Really? Oh, yeah, that makes sense." Just sitting there telling them in the daylight that window turns into a black mirror. I can't tell you how many times, Ryan, people just look at me like, "What?" I'm like, "Just look tonight. Pay me the design fee. Let me do this. Let's do this." And then you look through that window tonight. And then for sure, I go back with the proposal, and they're like, "I can't believe you were so right. I'm looking at myself." Yeah. Or they're always closing the dang blinds. My wife did that when we got married, Ryan. We lived out on 10 acres, rented this little house. The people that rented it to us built on the 10 acres. We were on kind of a top of a hill, nothing around us. This old red barn behind us and some old trees. Home was built in the 50s. That was it. They had added on to the back of this room, turned a patio into a great room where they put in a fireplace and floor to ceiling glass windows. And it had vertical blinds. My wife closed them every night. I'm like, "Why are you closing those, honey?" She goes, "Somebody could be standing right there and I couldn't see him." And like, no one's going to be standing there. We're out in the country. They could be. And darn if Dad didn't, the people we were renting from let me put some lights out there. Dad, the owner of
Nice.
the Nightlighters, he let me, we grabbed some fixtures, uplit the pear trees, threw a little light on this old rickety red barn. Guess what? Couple things happened. She never closed those blinds again. And we bought dimmer switches for all the lights in that room, because by dimming the lights, elevated the lights outside, so our pupil could dilate while we were in that room, which was our TV room / her office. And we never closed them again.
That's awesome.
So great little tip.
Yeah, I love it.
For everyone out there. And it's real. It's a tactic, no doubt, but it's a real designer, right? Remember when at the beginning I told you one foot in sales, 1 foot in design?
Yeah, 100%. No, that's awesome. I mean, even our last house in Texas, it faced west. So at the end of the day, we'd have all our blinds open, and then all of a sudden the sun comes in. So we close the blinds, and then we'd open them as soon as the sun went down. We'd open them back up because we wanted to see our lighting and our arbor back there and the trees and everything. And same thing, I would turn all the lights out in the house, maybe have a lamp on or something like that. But that's what can make lighting super awesome. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I remember now how this happened. So I was down in Tampa. I think it was before a conference. I don't know. I was visiting a fellow AOLP lighting designer, and he took me at night to this estate, huge palm trees. Home must have been 20-some thousand square feet. And the guy was home and he was all happy. "Come on in." So we went in, and we're in his kitchen, his great room. And I'm looking out these kind of sliding glass doors, where they disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And he had them closed. And I'm like, "Man, I bet you," and of course, Nick had done a wonderful job out there, right? I mean, just unlimited things to illuminate. Beautiful. And what a great view from in the kitchen. And I'm like, "Man, I bet you got those doors open a lot, and you're just, because of how Nick lit this, it's one big space." He goes, "Chris, most of the time, that's our view right through this window. We don't go out there much." And I was just like, boom, bang, right? Because I live up here. It's cold. It's going to be 20 degrees tomorrow night, right? Who's going to go outside? Well, just because you don't go outside doesn't mean you don't turn those black mirrors into picture windows and visually expand your space, right? You're not out there, but the room feels bigger.
Love it. That's awesome. And it goes into that feeling. It's like, man, this just feels different. This feels good. We're not trapped in our house. You don't have to be outside to feel like you're not like you're outside. So
exactly.
Okay, so you're obviously super passionate about lighting. You've been doing this a long time. I think a lot of it has to do with some of the things you talked about, your experiences, some of these people you've met, these organizations you've been involved with. Let's track back a little bit to ILLI. Can we talk about your involvement with ILLI? You said, what was the first year you attended?
It was 2011. I went in as an attendee.
Okay, so
in New York.
I'm going this year. This is my first time going as an attendee. I kind of know what to expect because what people have said, but I really don't. I'm just going to go into ILLI, and I know you're going to be there. Greg Matthews is going to be a mentor, and I know it's in Indiana, and I have a checklist of things that I'm supposed to get. I already have a headlamp, but I've got to review everything else because it's coming up. It's March 30th to April 4th. You're going to be there. why should someone consider going to Illy? Because there are a few spots still left for this one.
So I told you I have some background in sales, right? You go to these, I call it like a Zig Ziglar sales conference. You get a sugar high, and as soon as you get home, you feel like you've been thrown back into the desert. I went to Illy, and it was the exact opposite. I was so tired physically and mentally, packed with information, that it unraveled or revealed itself through the course of the whole following year, where I'd be out doing a design. I'm like, oh wait, I remember this, and it just fed me, and I wanted, and therefore, I put my name in the hat to get back and help mentor, just sure to share, but also to learn. And the nice thing about Illy is I think it's 600 or 700 sources of light that you and 7 others in your group. So you go to class, you have lectures, but then you're also going out and breaking into groups of 3. And typically they have 24 attendees. And that's 3 groups of 8. And there's a tent and there's trunks, and they all have equipment. They have different types of light sources, lamps, fixtures, integrated, drop-in bulbs, lamps, and what I call a hybrid, right? That's kind of in the middle where you can get to the drivers or the diodes. And then as a group, you basically create a design, and each group has 3 mentors. And I always call it, your job is to herd cats as a mentor, because you've got people with all kinds of different backgrounds. You could have a person there who's been doing lighting for 6 months, and they feel the need to come to the class. You could have somebody there who's been doing lighting design as a landscape architect for 40 years, and they think they know it all. And you have to work with those different personalities in unison so that one doesn't jack it up for the other. And that's something you and I talked about a little before we got on here. Teaching and guiding is there's an art to that and a stress to that. But what is available to learn is incredible, because you get to play with things. You get to see things in the field. 3,000 Kelvin versus 27. What does a 60 degree versus 120 degree beam spread look like? What if I put some type of filter on this? And here's a little secret I'll share. My first class might have been $3,500, and I came back home, and this was still halogen days. We weren't using halogen, or we weren't using LED, and Janet Moyer, who was still running the class at that time, she didn't use, I don't recall any LED in 2011. But I came back, and I went to the store and bought some black metal screen and cut it into circles, different shapes of our fixtures, and started putting it on there to dim them. And it was the best $3,500 I've ever spent in my life, because we use it to this day, because it tones down the light without affecting the beam spread, with reason. You understand, you pile on 8 screens, you're going to have some effect possibly on beam spread. But I was just so blown away with that, Ryan, because we'd had certain clients where we couldn't get the lamps deep enough or dim enough with halogen. Take a 20 watt, take a 35 watt, put in a 20, put in a 10, and then you're putting in like frosted glass. So those types of things, you never know what you're going to learn. And then being around your group, your other 7 attendees in your group, it's just invaluable. It's so intense, of the hands-on. And this spring in particular, that's unique, Ryan, is we're doing the Roofless Church in New Harmony, Indiana, which is an architectural structure. I don't know. I haven't been a part of every year of Illy, or every class, certainly, and I'm not sure that they've ever done something like this. It's landscape lighting for, typically we're lighting landscape. So if anybody's interested in going, where you're going to get to see some beautiful landscape, but also see some architectural, the challenges of that, and also the victories and the different ways it can be illuminated, it'll be a special treat for anyone who signs up for this one.
Awesome. I'm excited. Plus, the Roofless Church actually has a roof. So
actually has a roof, right?
Yeah. I was like, I have to go to see the Roofless Church with a roof. So
exactly. Yep.
Greg Matthews is leading Ghost Tours. If you buy the VIP ticket, I think it comes included. So mention Lighting for Profits, and you'll get a discount on the Ghost Tours. Okay, so I'm really excited about Illy. It's going to be a good time. I've been sitting behind a computer for 2 years, so I'm gonna dust off the dust and get some work boots and like bring some wire cutters or whatever. I don't even know what's on the list. I just remember the headlamp, but I already have a headlamp. So I'm going to bring
Right.
stuff. I'm going to look like a man, and we're just going to do some lighting stuff. It's going to be cool.
Just bring rain gear and water boots, because if you don't bring them, then you'll make it rain. So bring them.
Okay, cool.
You follow
All
me?
right. So now I'm in a class. Like I signed up last week was the first week. I'm in an Ellie class with Mark Carlson, landscape lighting initiative.org. Talk about that. Like, why are you involved with that? What are you doing with that? I'm excited. Like I said, last week was the first week. It's a 12-week class. And I think tomorrow is the next one. I've got to make sure, but I think it's tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow 6 o'clock is our next class. So I met Mark Carlson, I think it was '06, at an AOLP conference, and there's people you just sync with, and he was definitely one of those for me. And he always had all these ideas, and over the year, always tell him, pick a few. And he's so creative. He's a drummer, he's an author, he's a lighting designer. That's uncharacteristic. I'm not capable of that much creativity, so I soak it in from him. Like Greg, I mean Greg Matthews, right? He's an excellent photographer, designer. He has other creative things. I don't know that I have any.
He has
I can.
and he has a flamethrower.
Oh,
So
that's right. That's right. Right. So there are guys out there and gals that have they just have a creative mind, and that always drew me to Mark, because it was something that, again, that we talked about in the beginning. I wanted to be a better designer, and I liked how Mark communicated about design. It was thoughtful, it was humble, and so I was drawn to it. Back in 2016, I went to work in the health industry through 2020 in St. Louis, but I kept my toe in my family business. Nutshell, I was driving to St. Louis Sunday afternoon, driving home Thursday, and doing lighting Thursday afternoon through Sunday afternoon, helping out with lighting design and sales. But in that time, Mark kind of focused, and what came from that was experiential landscape lighting initiative. And towards the end of my time with the clinics in St. Louis, I was in the health industry, and we serve diabetics, right? They come in there like a kidney treatment. You have multiple people, 8 to 12 people getting a treatment for 4 hours. So they got to be a group. We started doing nighttime treatments, and we happened to be on the first floor, Ryan, of this building. It had all these beautiful pine trees around it. And all I was thinking is, wow, I want to do some lighting out there, but I could affect the lighting in the place because it just had overhead fluorescence. So I started messing with that, and I started talking to those patients about how that affected them. And then I was reading Mark's website about health and lighting, and I was living that. And then we were doing a study with St. Louis University, and I was talking to the guy that was running that study about health and lighting. Of course, he said there's studies out there, and he started talking to me about that. Like how you illuminate your recovery room. Certain hospitals care about that, and it can affect the speed at which you recover, the not just the brightness, but the different color temperatures, I believe. So when I came back full time, I was just really sucked into Mark's world, because I'd never seen lighting design referred to along the health aspect of it, and affect, and just digging deeper. And then I got his book, and his first book. It's not like it's 100 pages, and Jan Moyer has a great book. It's like a great study guide, but yeah. I keep that in my car, because I'll just read a paragraph or two in a couple minutes before I go into an appointment, and it just has good information that I could digest. And it lifted me up. It helped me understand that there's more to aesthetic, safety, and security. There's actually, aesthetic is about desire, safety is about concern, security is about fear. It's emotion, like we talked about earlier. So I met with Mark in February 2021. We powwowed up in the mountains around Tahoe, and we figured out how this could move forward, because I wanted it to be something that didn't step on Ellie, AOLP, your organization. I would like us all to move forward together. So that's what we hashed out, and we came up with, I think, some pretty good ideas. And now Mark is implementing his class. I've got a class, design-centric sales experience, that'll be rolling out probably maybe in April, once I finish getting it together, that Mark approves of. I told you earlier, right? Knowing what to do and teaching it, two different things, man. It's scary. It's hard.
Yeah.
You think you're a great communicator because you talk to clients all day, but when you're teaching students, it's a different thing. You can't So
Oh,
anyway,
it's totally different. So when I launched my coaching business, all I could think about was when I was really good at snowboarding, and I thought, well, I'll teach my wife how to snowboard. Well, when we went out, I mean, we almost got divorced on the mountain because I was yelling at her, she was yelling at me. I mean, it was bad. You know, there was some people like, "Hey, are you guys okay?"
yeah,
And it was because I didn't know how to teach snowboarding. I was just good at it, right? And
yeah.
so I was worried. I was like, "What if I launch this coaching thing?" And I'm like, "What if I'm good at business but bad at teaching it?" So I actually hired a coach, you know, and that was like life changing for me because he gave me that blueprint, that template of like, here's what to do, here's how to deliver it, and it made me look like a superstar because I had his experience of becoming a coach, and that's the way I look at like everything now. So like, you know, me taking these classes at Ellie, me going to Illy, like there's people that already know more about things than what I do. So why would I spend time trying to grind it out and figure it out when there's people who already have the blueprint, they have the roadmap. I actually just got this today. This is my study guide for the class that I'm in with you and Mark with for Ellie. So I'm excited. I was just thumbing through it right before we hit the record button, and yeah, I'm excited, man. It's a good class. It's a good opportunity, and I think it's 12 weeks. So I'm
I think
going
that's right.
hardcore. I'm leaning into this design thing hard. I'm going 12 weeks right now with Ellie. Then we're going to the in person at Illy. We're all in for design this year.
What I love about the Ellie classes, at least, there's other levels and different things that Ellie will be doing. Ellie is not about Mark. It's not about me. It's not about some others that are putting in some work here to get it off the ground. It's about design. I'm going to die. Mark's going to die. And the idea is that something is built that can carry on, that others can participate in and also help move forward with their skill set of teaching. And it's not going to be limited to a certain categories, right? If somebody has value and they feel they can teach something and they want to teach that through the Ellie portal, they can. And then and then the remuneration part of it. I've spent so many years, I was on the board of AOLP, and it seems like the more you give, the more people want, and you don't get paid for anything. For
Yeah.
years with Illy, I'd go out, and we were fortunate enough that we'd get our airfare paid for in a room, but no remuneration. They give you $500 now, which is helpful. But I think everyone knows that you're giving up not just of your time, but time is money.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
for years when I was visiting with Mark about it, I can't remember if he was on. I know he eventually got on board with it. I don't remember if he was in agreement day one, but I wanted there to be a way for those that teach to get paid, to make some money for their effort.
Yeah.
And so that's the avenue we're moving down with that.
Cool. No, I love it, man. I'm excited about it. We had a good question from Pat Harders. I want to ask about pricing, which I love pricing. So I'm like, yeah, of course we're going to ask this. You guys are in Owensboro, Kentucky. You hear a lot of people in the Facebook groups and just chatting. We're going to hear it next week. I can't charge those prices in my market. I was guilty of saying this early on. What is your pricing like? Like, how are you guys able to still command a good price in Owensboro, Kentucky? I don't even know where that is. So it's not a top,
Yeah, I
right?
know no one does. I'll say Evansville, Indiana, and people say, "Oh, yeah, yeah."
How do you build like he said, like you and your father, you've established this great business. You do not back down from pricing. So how do you do that?
Wow, that's a good question. So Patrick has that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows. Patrick has. Uh, so we don't price jobs by the fixture. Patrick just did a little bit of a class on LinkedIn about that. That some companies do, but you can take the amount you sold the job for and divide it by the number of fixtures, and you can get a per fixture cost. We
Hmm.
don't include the transformer or transformers. So as of, I only know just because I looked at our kiosk, the jobs that we have in the kiosk that are yet to be installed but are sold. Um, the average per fixture is at, I think it's 678 and some
That's
change.
awesome.
So now architectural's more than sticking a fixture in the ground,
Yep.
but it's we didn't get there overnight. Just like I didn't get to charging $1,000 and up for a design fee overnight. My first design fee was a whopping $35 and like 50
That's
cents.
funny.
Yeah, that's how brave I was back in 2008. I stepped right out there and demanded that. but it
You'll
was,
pay
it's
me
just,
my 35. I mean,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
if you want to talk to me, I'll need $35.
Exactly. Well, and then that was funny, Ryan. It wasn't even a design fee. It was just to meet with me. It
Yeah.
was a
Just to
consultation
see.
fee. I charged to meet with them, right? Somebody on the West Coast had done that, and I thought, well, we got to charge something because I was getting tired of it. But anyway,
Wait till you
how
get
would
my invoice for being on the show. I mean,
exactly, exactly. So I used to think people in big cities, I've heard it said, there's 12 markets out there where you've got your multi-million billionaires. Um, and every one of us is not that, right? And I just thought, wow, I would love to live in one of those big areas. And when I first started doing lighting, I had dreams of doing projects all over the country and got a couple of those under my belt in Florida or Texas, and just thought, oh, we're on our, we're on the fast track. I'm going to be the lighting guy. Um, and what I learned is you get in some of those bigger markets, everybody deals with different things. I used to think that being here on our own, no one doing lighting, it was hard. And it was hard because no one, it was like that first plasma TV that came out that cost $8,000. You'd never seen a flat screen like this, but somebody's wanting $8,000 for it. It's like, they couldn't understand equate value to it. But then I've heard other friends of mine that what they struggle with in large markets is somebody just driving the price down, and they have to compete with that. And so we kind of went through that in Owensboro. There are 3 other lighting only companies now in my town of 70,000 people. That didn't happen by a whim. It happened because we're here. But you know what? We get plenty of work, and all we've done is lift. I think we elevate. Not everybody can afford a Ferrari. So, okay, you go get a Ford, but everybody has a car. And what I've seen change in Owensboro and our region is, like I told you at the beginning of this, no one had lighting in this town. Now there's just so much of it. I had a guy come from the West Coast. Now, Washington State, he came from, I think it was Seattle. They've got a lot of lighting there. And he pulled into my neighborhood, and I'll never forget this, Ryan. He goes, man, everybody in your neighborhood has lighting. This is crazy. And I was like, what? Because I always felt like the redheaded stepchild, right? I'd
Yeah.
go to AOLP and I'd get butchered by everybody. You use nightscaping? You're a dinosaur. You only use nightscaping? What are you, in the backwoods? Oh, you're in Owensboro? Oh, okay. I guess I understand.
Oh,
They
you are in
talk
the backwoods.
yeah. They talk about how they use all these different products, and Dad and I we stayed with one company, right? And but what I found is over time, there are those companies that charge less. We just don't. And that's where the challenge comes from the sales perspective, but also the design, having feet in both those buckets. I've got to make people in 30 to 45 minutes. I've got to become their trusted advisor. They've got to want to go with me and spend 3 or 5,000 extra dollars uh, because they see my vision and they know it'll be worth it. And I hate to tell Patrick this and get his ego too high, but he helped me change my lighting designs with their little wash light. It's just so amazing. And that company, Ryan, not to put a commercial out for them, but it's a fact. I don't know another manufacturer that has the CRI at 97. I think theirs are, and it really matters. It really matters.
Sorry, we just had to do that. We do that when our commercials played. So,
Oh, okay. All right.
Sterling Lighting.
Well, it was funny. I didn't know they raised their CRI until I was doing a reveal. I just bought one of their fixtures and uplit some trees. Like I told you earlier, I lit the top third of a tree as viewed from the front, and it was winter, so there's no leaves. But I just looked at the trees and they looked different, crisper. It was like for years I was looking at a 32-inch big box screen big box TV from 1993, and then somebody all of a sudden put a 32-inch flat screen LCD in front of me, and I'm like, holy crap! I'm in the view. I'm in the scene. It was. And I later found out they had increased their CRI. So that stuff matters.
I think that it must be Scott Romacker saying, moving on, Scott Romacker. That's just funny. Okay. So I totally hear you. I mean, and that's really what it is when you find good CRI. When I was, I think I was in high school when I got glasses, I had no idea that I couldn't see good. I just thought everyone saw the world the way I saw. And then I got glasses and I was like, what in the world is happening? Like we live by the mountains here, and I thought the mountains always look cool, but when I could see the detail, I was like, you can see the trees from this far away. Like you guys have been seeing this the whole time, and no one told me that like I couldn't see this clarity. So I totally know that sensation of getting better lighting. We are going long, which I'm down. We're just rolling. Are you still got time?
I'm happy to say yes.
Because I got two more things I want to ask you about.
Go.
The first one is AOLP. What's your involvement been with that over the years? And are you coming? I mean, well, I don't want to fast forward too much because then the next thing I want to ask you is about Landscape Lighting Live. But what's your involvement with AOLP? Are you going to be down there next week?
So AOLP started back, I think, in the 90s. My old man went down with Bill Auckland and his bulls to the Bahamas, and he started it, called the LVLIA, like Low Voltage Lighting Institute of the Americas.
That's
Everybody put in some money, and hence they were called charter members. Fast forward several years, and it changed to AOLP, which Bill was never wanting it to be about him. And then I started getting involved when Dad, allowed me to go down there, and jumped in with both feet at the Chaparral. Love that place. That is the best place for an AOLP conference, that compound. But what I love about it, I mean, whether you think you know a lot or don't, if you're installing or you've got men or girls installing for you, it's good to have them go get their certified low voltage lighting technician. I can't say that I've ever held up my certificate or showed it CLVLT number on my business card and had somebody say, we're going with you. But it gives you a level of confidence, and the class is the real deal. It's not some fluff thing. You took it, I think, last year, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to update my name to I can't know there. Hold. Yeah, I am a CLVLT. I think I'm number 72. So I do flash it around. There we go.
And then the cold class, certified outdoor lighting designer. I don't know who knows this, but Mark Carlson was involved. He was one of the people involved in developing that class, and Jan Moyer was also a part of it. And when it first came out, Ryan, it was a 4-year class. Now we weren't in class all 4 years. We just have to meet at the conference. So it was a time. It took a lot of time. You're committing to go to the conference 4 years in a row. So now they condensed it. A little bit of COVID helped them, but they've condensed it to, I think, a year where you meet it. You have in-person classes, one conference, you go and wrap up at your next conference. So those are two good assets. Being a certified outdoor lighting designer doesn't step on Illy. That's why Jan was a part of it. Her class is different. It's elevated, nor does it step on what Experiential Landscape Lighting Initiative is doing, because it's just a different thing. This is good to send your young designers to. Then what I love most is the conference itself. I love the networking. I love the sharing. And the classes, some lectures good, some not for me. I'm not into Christmas lighting. So if there's something like that, still not into outdoor speakers and surround sound stuff. So if there's class on that, right? So not everything speaks to me personally, but just being around 70, 80, 100 lighting people, that's typically all they do. That's a real treat for me. And then the other thing that really blew up last year, I mean, for years, there might have been 8 or 12 companies at the expo, but they have an expo that lasts a few hours. But last year there was 20 some. This year I think there's 30. And when I was at the GI Expo to help out AOLP last fall, which is in Louisville, which is, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it's like the landscape expo thing to go to. It's got everything, right? There were only like 9 manufacturers, lighting manufacturers there. We're going to have, of the 30 is not 30 manufacturers, right? But I think probably 20 some. And it's just such a condensed area. And I made the mistake last year because I hadn't been in so many years of catching up with people. And next thing I knew, 3 hours were gone because I'm standing at the tables, right, snacking on food, talking to people, and I didn't get to all the booths. So, God, you got to go to those booths. You got to that expo and meeting other people. And it's not like you're going to have conversations at the bar or at dinner with all 80 people, but you're going to connect with 4 or 5, and that is worth the price of admission for that event.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think you made it to my booth, so
I did not.
Yeah. Goes to show you where I sit on the priority list. Anyway, moving on. So, are you going to be at AOLP or no?
No.
I'm just putting you on the spot.
I know.
I always try to make sure the guests feel as awkward as possible.
The boss made me pick one or the other, and I picked you.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. And don't make it that makes it sound like that makes it sound bad. Let's talk about Landscape Lighting Live. You're going to be down there with us. You're going to actually even help on a little bit of instruction on design. So how are you feeling about that? That's next week.
I told you when I got on this call that I am every day we get closer, I'm just getting more and more excited. I think how many people we're going to have 20 some people there, right?
Yeah,
Is
we
that
got
right?
26 attendees, and then we've got
Of the
a few instructors as well. So
and of those attendees, some are really new. So just like I've been telling Mark recently, as we're talking about another class for Ellie, this is an excellent opportunity with those young skulls of mush to give them, not overwhelm them with information. That's not the goal, but to give them good information out of the gate that they can build on. And you were kind enough to allow me to kind of massage a certain number that slides I'll be presenting, and I'm really grateful you did that. So that was my thought process when I was doing it.
86. That was 86 slides I had to redo, but yeah, keep going.
But just what could I do to? I just had that in my mind, right? I don't want to speak. It's not about everything everything we're covering there is. It's not all about one thing, right? You've got part of it what's about installation. I think you got nighttime demos. There's design. There's what's Kelvin, what's color temperature. I mean, just you're covering the whole gamut, and it can very easily overwhelm somebody. So I wanted to give them. I wanted to elevate and but not overwhelm, if that makes sense. So I guess we'll find out. I mean, I think I did something wonderful. You didn't shoot it down, so we're past that phase. Now I guess we're just going to have to see if I'm looking at a bunch of blank eyes, yawning, people going to the bathroom. Hope not.
No, we don't allow bathroom breaks at my events.
Good,
So
good, good.
we hand out diapers, and it's like, listen, you guys are here for one reason only, and that's what we're doing. So no breaks.
Excellent.
Well, I'm excited to have you down there, man. I started doing this a year ago. The first one was a year ago at Greg Matthews Place, and it went awesome. I mean, it went way better than I even expected. But as I grow and I realize like my vision for this, like you said, with the vision of Ellie, it's more than just Mark Carlson. It's more than just Chris Mitchell. That's what I feel about Landscape Lighting Secrets, and like I can't do it all on my own. There's a lot of ideas and things that I want to get out, and I'm grateful to get to know people like you that are willing to participate and share your value and your perspective with the world, because we agree on a lot of things, but we also disagree on different. Or it's not that we disagree, but we just have different ways of doing things, and I think that's so important for people when they come to an event to get those multiple perspectives, because they're going to attach to certain things and other things are going to be a little bit boring and dry to them. So if we can offer them different perspectives, it's just going to be that much more value. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Ryan, I had one shout out to get back to the AOLP. Another thing that's worth price of admission is I just happened to be looking through it. Since I wasn't going, I wasn't looking at what all the individual sessions were. But I took a look and I saw that an open panel, which is always great, where they'll set up 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals up on the stage that are typically they're members of AOLP, but they have different levels of experience, different parts of the country, and you're gonna have 3 good ones up there. Greg Matthews, he'll be up there. Chris Applestock, great guy. He great communicator. And then Anthony Bogdanovich, super. They're all, they're at levels in their businesses and their design levels, but they're all knowledgeable. So that's worth it to go to.
Absolutely. I mean, all those guys are studs. I actually met them through AOLP and through Landscape Lighting Secrets, so I'm excited to support them, and hopefully I'm gonna ask them some questions and try to stump them, but they're pretty smart dudes, so it may not happen.
I'll give you some.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you supporting Landscape Lighting Live, Landscape Lighting Secrets. It's gonna be a lot of fun next week.
I'm ready to rock and roll, buddy.
Okay. Anything you want to leave the world with before we wrap up?
Yes. The famous words of Richard Skoltons that worked with us for 13 years. Onward and upward.
Okay. Go get it, guys. Onward and upward. Thanks again for being our guest here at Lighting for Profits. Thanks for your support. Thank you guys. If you're here live, if you're listening on the podcast, thank you as well. And we'll see you guys. Well, actually, we're going to take a break next week because we're going to be busy. Literally a week from today, we're going to be doing like hands-on training down in Florida. So we're taking a break for a week from the podcast. So we'll see you guys here live in 2 weeks. Thanks for sticking around.